All right, everybody, welcome. It's 8:26 here. It's our favorite Wednesday. It's post Nvidia earnings here. I'm going to go ahead and start or share here. We'll just get rolling. So first of all, we'll start out with Nvidia itself. They had a, I wouldn't say like a strong beat, but they had, they had a beat for sure. The one thing that stuck out to me though was their margins are getting squeezed a little bit. So with the price of, RAM and DDRM and all that sort of fun stuff, they're taking a hit in a little bit of margins. But when you're making cajillions of dollars, I guess it doesn't really matter, right? Uh, anyways, so they kind of revised some of their projections upward here. It's kind of interesting how there's oops, sorry. It's kind of interesting how they're able to revise anticipating that kind of demand with a lot of the capex that's been spent already with some of the other AI buildouts. So I guess we'll have to see at upcoming quarters how that all shakes out. But anyways, so Nvidia got a decent boost. So one thing that I'd rather, or I think it's probably good to caution on is that 220 had a lot of, so I'll just kind of mark this here. 220 has a lot of positive gamma. There's also a lot at there was 205 and then 200. So these are the sort of like your major gamma magnets for all the different options. The options contracts and stuff that are concentrated along those lines. So it's kind of interesting how you saw, definitely spiked up, and these guys pulled a fast one. They was 2 minutes after the U.S. markets closed, for that 1 hour, and then they jammed it up. So that's a dirty trick they like to play. But right now it's up, and I guess we're going to have a close, around like 220 or something, or maybe a little bit higher, in order for it to, keep running with this momentum. I still think that, this could be like a B wave kind of thing, and I don't want to be, excessively bearish. I mean, they did have a decent beat, so I think you could realistically see something like this. That's one small, it's one scenario. But then again, of course, there's the bearish scenario, or sorry, the bullish, where you could have started like a brand new kind of leg up here. We've got some from the last earnings session here. I'd say the last couple of earnings episodes, it's kind of kind of declined ever since then. But we've had a little bit of lift here. But the long story short is this would sort of complete like a some sort of bearish structure, I guess you could say, and this is sort of like the last leg up that I could see being a possibility. But then after that, you could probably see some sort of I don't know if this is realistic. It's just an example, but you've got a lot of volume down here. So you also got some sellers that are now trapped. So you might see something like this B wave. At minimum, you'll probably see this little pullback here. But that's if it doesn't continue going nuts. So that's kind of the video recap here. Let's go to Nasdaq. So Nasdaq has been interesting lately. It's kind of let me get this stuff out of here. It's I had a target here at this like 2,900, or sorry, that's this 29,000 line, and that was my full target. Actually, here, hold on 1 second. Let me double check this. I don't want to be telling lies here. Oh, I moved them. Okay, never mind. But I had I sent out some charts, and I had like a support line here, and the argument was, you should see a bounce here. Well, typically you see a bounce if there's a pullback. You can see something like this for the Nasdaq. I kind of have a feeling now it's going to continue to go up for the rest of the week. Maybe we'll have maybe a little bit of selling before Labor Day, but I don't know. But September's upon us, and the one thing that's really sticking out like a sore thumb is that this volume is just terrible. On average, it's just really, really low. Compared to like the prior couple of sessions, you can just see that slow, steady decline. And you can make the argument that it's a convergence of lower volume and then also lower price, and that kind of indicates like it's like a compression, and you'll see some volatility after that. But I think everybody is really just waiting for the Nvidia results. I think what's probably more realistic is that longer term you could see something like this, where you might actually get a new high here, just because I don't know, this looks kind of weird, but you might get another attempt at the high here, just because it it doesn't really look super symmetrical in the higher level time frame. But the S&P did make a new high, and the Nasdaq has still struggled. So yeah, I kind of feel like it's if you get some sort of rotation again, like if you pull up SOX. SOX to me looks like it's ready for, like I'm sure when it opens tomorrow, you're gonna see something probably like this, where over time you'll see this, like this increase to about like 580. So from the Nasdaq, what that means is probably something like this. Now, if that doesn't happen, and you start to see, let's say Nvidia takes a turn lower, which is possible. I mean, the last 4 earnings or 3 or whatever it is, they've declined starting the day after. So if that the trend continues, then you'll probably see that first bearish scenario that I outlined here, which is more of like this, or like just a smaller pullback. But I still think that there's now that the Nvidia results are in, I want to be careful here, because I think that we're going to start to see like a turn in larger patterns, if that makes sense. It's like on a short-term scale, like I just showed before, you could see something like this, and then all of a sudden we have a new like marginal like local high here. But that's I'm not really getting that at this time. Like this entire move up was just a short squeeze plus plus also a bunch of shares bought from Citadel, Ken Griffin, all that all that story a couple weeks ago. But I kind of think you're going to see a little bit more of some shedding of some price. You might get. Here, let me zoom in. Had some feedback about zooming in. Okay. So I kind of think here, this is a very obvious ABC to me, and it's actually, if I go to my current chart, I know it's a mess here. Sorry guys, but like an extension of this is, so this looks like a pretty clear, like a wave 3 to me. So it might extend a little bit higher, let's say like that. But typically what this means is this could be like your first A leg, and this is just a bullish scenario. And then you could see something maybe like a C leg. Maybe it's a brief pullback. We haven't really been getting big, strong pullbacks recently. I wouldn't say like strong. It's more of like it's that stair step down, irritates everybody because there's really no like signal to buy, with conviction. So one of the things I wanted to try to measure out here was, or at least show. So we kind of covered, the upcoming like small term, or like sorry, can't talk today. The small, small time frame kind of bull bear views. And with the S&P, it's kind of the same thing. I don't know if the S&P is going to make a new high. I kind of feel like it's, starting to build a flag like this, or a bullish pattern. It depends on how high it gets. I think if you get some stop, or like if you get some resistance right around here, like this 77, 27, you could see a slightly lower low before you get some sort of launch. Now, mapping that to the Nasdaq, I actually kind of think you might see something similar. Now, this is more of a longer term kind of thing, and before I kind of get tripped up and tangled up here, I wanted to kind of show you that that very, very short term scenario, you could still see this like this little ABC head up here. I think if you do, sorry, let me draw some lines, or do some lines so I can see where I'm going. I think the retracement here is going to be very important, or at least like what level it kind of stalls. I think you'll probably hit this 50%. That'll probably be it for maybe the night. and then tomorrow, maybe you'll get like a quick stab down for sellers to exit trap positions or whatever, and then maybe you'll get another launch higher. At least that's kind of what I'm thinking. I think at least for like the S&P, kind of the same sort of. Still, sorry, that's a bit of a bearish move here. Sorry, I feel like I'm jumping around. I apologize. There's just so much to talk about. So I kind of think here we might have, if not a stop around here, then maybe you'll see maybe something like this, where maybe it extends a little bit higher. I could also see sort of like a weird kind of head and shoulders thing going on, but that doesn't really look like that's the right pattern here. So I think short term, again, this is probably my preferred scenario here, just because hey, Nvidia, biggest company in the universe here, they have good results, and that's what drives prices. It's also speculation, but there's also the counterbalance, which is trap sellers and things like that you can have maybe some profit taking, or really just trying to exit any positions. And sometimes those little stabs are very short lived. So that's I'd say the very, very short term scenario. I think the S&P is actually probably a better one to show the potential longer term move here. So let's say we get this rejection here at the 50% retracement. Let's say you get let's say the next move is down, you make a slightly lower low, or you kind of bounce on the last high here that we had at like 76.20. Then I think it's possible, that kind of hits on the 50%. You might then you might see a continuation and make it a slight higher high. I still think that this high that we made here, a lot of this was just momentum and short squeezes. I still don't see crazy momentum. So typically, like when you see a lot of these, like this clustering of, let's say, like a little bit of blue, and some big candles like that, that means there's a lot of volume that's being picked up, and you can expect people to support that. But I didn't really, over the last couple of days, this has been just crap volume. So as it's been kind of declining, it's just more sell heavy. So there really hasn't been enough, in my opinion, like enough accumulation here to to really like keep propelling this thing forward. I think it's possible you might have this one last little leg down, and then if you start to see volume picking up, then we can get a little bit more. You can get a little bit more bullish if you start to see the volume pick up. That to support a move like this, you just have to have a decent amount of accumulation for it. So that's kind of like the I guess short / longer term view. But hey, it's coming up on September, so I think it's worthy of note to also show this, to show the seasonal adjusted, or I don't know how to say it anymore. Markets do retreat, and as I draw these things here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So zooming out, we've been talking about this for a while. We've got this pretty large, oops, redraw that. We got this pretty large kind of channel. We've got this breakout, it's called like a false breakout kind of thing. It broke down below the neckline, a considerable amount. Didn't get close to the 200 yet, but this is kind of where I think you might see the back half of a correction. This is where it can move a little faster. So now that we've seen some distribution here, you've seen a lot of volume picking up, a lot of volume changing hands, and it failed its first attempt at breaching this trend line and holding it. You can kind of see that's where a lot of this volume came through here, in defense of this. But I do think that you'll see. Let's just assume here. Let's just have some fun with it. We can assume that we'll get some sort of, let's say we get the back half of this correction. Maybe what was this, like 10% more? Okay, so 18%. I think that's reasonable. I mean, we haven't had a decent correction that hasn't been immediately erased in since last, April last year, with the tariff debacle stuff. So now we've just been AI, just because AI. Now we're rocking and rolling. I think probably what you might see. This line's kind of getting a little irrelevant, I guess, at the higher points here. But so because this kind of looks like an ABC, this type of correction you could see. Hold on, let me draw it right. This type of correction you could see something like this. But if it's kind of what I think it might be, we'll probably see a little bit more of a lift, and then we might see something like this where you get this lower low, but this wave three could be decently powerful. And in my opinion, I think there's been enough distribution here where you might see maybe a little bit of like a little bit more like sideways chop and price action here, and that's really to just absorb a lot of the buy liquidity that you see. But I think again, we can probably chop here for another couple days until Labor Day, and then maybe after that, this is our September. Again, this is just speculation. I don't want to see overly bearish or bullish. It's just more of just kind of what it looks like to me, kind of standing off the page. The one other thing that I've noticed is that we're getting a lot of these like top wicks, like here and kind of all the last couple days, really just pushing. Like it wasn't enough selling to keep prices consistently going down, but there was enough selling here to essentially match and control control the different price action that's been going on, or at least the sellers have been in control for a while. So anyways, that's I think going into to elections September, October is typically at least a 10% correction in the year. If we didn't have one, I'd be surprised. S&P is up 12% this year, and that's on top of 3 years of double digit 20s in the returns. I mean, it's literally historic. It's it's massive. But yeah, I think overall we're just gonna have to wait and see. I think it's like now that the results are in, I think this is a plausible scenario. But you're gonna need to somebody's gonna need to start selling with some volume right around here, and you've got some sell delta up here overall. So I think you probably will see something like this, but this seems to be like kind of the magic zone here where it's bearish below, bullish above, but it's not typically bullish above for that long. And now if I look at the S&P, the S&P is kind of uncharted here. I think the low volume is the big telltale sign here. So if you see even more low volume tomorrow and it keeps pumping higher and higher, that to me kind of feels like a bit of a trap. Just because again, like the VIX is super low, it's at 15. Stock market's or S&P's at 70, 7,700, and there's no fear out there. So that's a kind of September, October rug pull that typically doesn't bode well. Also with high yields and high yields and oil and stuff. So other than that, I guess that's kind of the bull bear setup here. Any questions? Did it actually cover most things? Okay. All right then. So now I'd like to show. Okay, so now I'll show yields. So just kind of quick here. We've really been seeing. I don't want to say manipulation, but it's like when Powell talks about all the tools, or they're all tools at the Fed. I don't know, whatever the, I know it's a joke for you. But it kind of seems to me like, doesn't it just seem like it wants to go higher? To me, this clustering is kind of like, this is now a couple different times yields have headed higher. At least bonds have tried to sell, and they've been kind of getting backstop here. So I do think that this is some sort of treasury intervention, some sort of yield curve control through some sort of backdoor stuff. If Percent is going to intervene in the the yen market, I I definitely think he would try to intervene in the U.S. bond market, especially if we have to issue all this debt in short term. So that's, it yields. I mean, yields are high. If they keep staying this high, I can't see a sustained high momentum stock market rally. Kind of like I said, excuse me, kind of like I said before, this entire kind of huge new high, on like 3 days worth of market activity. That's not necessarily something that is like from a healthy market. Like healthy is going up. When you've got volume along the way here, and it can survive these bigger sell-offs, because there's still interested buyers. But with yields this high and they keep creeping higher, I just think that there's no solutions on the table that I'm aware of. Sure, you could have maybe a little bit of pullback, but I think the trend is definitely up. So that's going to have some pressure. So for gold here, gold's still taking a bit of a breather, but I still think this is, I think we were talking about this a couple weeks ago. Like, gold's looking like it's setting up for a run higher, and sure enough, it went bananas. So hopefully you guys were able to take advantage of that trade. It's actually been a lot more of an exciting trade than indexes, because it's actually going someplace. You kind of see the same reaction in silver, where you get a little bit of a pullback. It's not quite at the 200-day moving average, but it's getting there. I still think you'll probably get up to this bull target too here before you get a bit more of a pullback, and then you get a launch higher. Oils did have some sort of selling here, but I still think it's just like a little bit of a B wave. I think you should probably find some support in the 50 and the 200-day moving averages here. I think that's reasonable. I do think I'm going to close some of my oil longs. They've done pretty well. I just I don't want to give it up if all of a sudden there's some sort of like brand new ceasefire or something like that. Who knows what the hell goes on these days. Gas is starting to wake up a little bit. It's getting pretty close to September here. Buying's picking up for that. I think El Nino might give us a little bit more goofy reaction out of weather. So maybe we get a colder winter, that kind of thing. So that should drive up some demand for gas. Bitcoin's really been the crazy one lately. I think you're going to see maybe just one more little high here. Maybe you can get up that high, but then that actually kind of completes this entire pattern here. I think if you kind of look at this on a lower time frame, higher time frame, I mean, you could see that this is like this is like a wave 4, like this 0.382, and you might get a lower low, but like this bear target one. Okay, so for stocks here, I think you'll still probably see something like this. I think Nvidia is still gonna drive that, but that's to me, if it doesn't close above 540, I think it's bearish still. I mean, people are a little worried about all the spending and marginal returns and stuff like that. Like I already saw OpenAI abruptly changed their long-standing pricing model, where let's say $20 you get on a plan for a week or for a month, and then all of a sudden they're not like tracking your data usage or consumption. But in this case, I think I think they're starting to get the squeeze of having to be profitable, and it's they're far from it. So all right, so Nvidia, I think we already covered that one in the beginning. Tesla, I think this one needs a bit of a breather. It's just been kind of grinding up here. There's actually a very, very long, thin channel, which is typically a bearish kind of pattern here. You can see it kind of rejected right at that 50. The math kind of lines up here with the fib levels too. So I'm kind of thinking that if I have the opportunity to get out of my longs here, I will. They're not too far away, but I'm definitely 2-to-1 short versus long for Tesla. Okay, that kind of does it. Any questions or comments, concerns? Anything I didn't cover? Okay, cool. All right. Well, I guess I'll stop presenting here and I'll stop the recording quick. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll see you next week.